Today we focus on person-centered therapy. Person-centered therapy is a therapy that was designed by the famous Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers lived a few years ago, but we're lucky enough there are some recordings of the work of Carl Rogers still to be seen on YouTube. So if you Google Carl Rogers on YouTube, you'll find some work. Unfortunately, the quality is not that great. The sound's not always that great, but it will give you an idea of the work that Carl Rogers did. So today we're going to just have a bit of a chat around what's person-centered therapy, or better known as CBT. No, PCT, person-centered therapy, not CBT. And just go and have a bit of a think about it and how it works. So for a few minutes, let's just ponder on the idea of PCT. So Carl Rogers developed this. This is more of a humanistic therapy. Carl Rogers developed this because he wanted this therapy to be more simpler, more understandable, and he also wanted this therapy to be more humane or more human-like. We know the psychodynamics sort of therapies that guys like Freud and Dr. Jung did, and they were very experimental and not as on the person and as almost person friendly. So what Carl Rogers did was he wanted a therapy that's more humanistic, that's more like in touch with the person themselves. So that's why he developed this person-centered therapy. Just a moment. His view, as I say here, his view differs sharply from the psychodynamic and behavioral approaches, in that he suggested that the client would be better helped if they were encouraged to focus on their current subjective understanding rather than on some unconscious motive or someone else's interpretation of the situation. So Carl Rogers goes from the point of view that the client is the expert. The client's the expert of their life, the client's the expert of their situation, the client's the expert of what's happening at that stage or what they're going through. While the other therapies were more like focusing on the past, especially Freud. Freud had a lot of sexual innuendos or sexual connotations, like some things that person go through is because one of those sexual issue happening, or something that happened in the past or in the growing up stages or in childhood. So Freud had all those. Also, we see those things happening when he talks about his it and ID, with ID it and those sorts of statements that he made, where Rogers says, let's focus on the client. Let's focus on the client situation. Let's focus on what the client's going through or what the client's experiencing, because the client is the expert. The client's the expert of their life. So there are 3 core conditions when we get to PCT. That's why PCT actually sounds quite easy, because there's only 3 things we need to remember. Although it's not that simple or easy to keep these 3 things in control. The first one is the therapist needs to be congruent. Therapist needs to be congruent with the client. The second one is the therapist provides an unconditional positive regard. We'll go into this in the next few slides, but an unconditional positive regard. And thirdly, the therapist shows empathetic understanding of the client, which means the therapist shows empathy. The therapist is not there to judge. The therapist is to accept. The therapist is almost to embrace the client and their situation. So let's just go into those 3. Congruence. Congruence is also called genuineness. Congruence is the most important attribute in counseling. So also when we talk about our counseling relationship, one of the most important things we do, or which we have to do, is we have to build rapport. We have to build rapport with our clients. If we look at the works of who's the lady? Patricia Clarkson. who wrote or who developed the four relationship model. One of them is focusing on actually on the relationship itself. Now, congruence is part of that. If you are genuine, your client will listen to you. If you are genuine, your client will actually decide to, hey, I want to know more about this person. I actually enjoy talking to this person. This person isn't there sitting with a clipboard and want to analyze me the whole time, or tick boxes off, or write the whole time. This person is there for me. This person is actually interested in me. So congruence is that you must be genuine. Congruence is the most important attribute in counseling. According to Rogers, this also means that unlike psychodynamic therapists, who generally maintain a blank screen that reveals little of their own personality in therapy, the Rogerian is keen to allow the client experience as they are really real. So you are real. You're a real person. You are soft. You are gentle. You are kind. It's not a cold front you have, but it's like you're on a journey. With counseling is a thing of the heart. I journey with my client. It's like a pilgrimage. We journey together. Peter Janetsky always says that it's like walking one step behind your client and one step beside your client. We are never ahead of our clients. We journey with them. And congruence shows that you are true. You are genuine. You're not just there to sit for an hour or to actually get your client to pay at the end, but you are someone that really cares. And that's the main thing about counseling is counseling are people that care. People that really, really connect with your client, really journey with your client, really wants your client to succeed. We are not here to fix our clients, but we are here to actually provide a space for a person to grow. Because the way we change is also part of our growth process. So allowing your client a safe space, a safe counseling room where they can actually grow, where they can actually become themselves, where they actually can let go of baggage from the past, where they actually can strive to a better future, where they actually can just get release of change holding them back. So, and that only happens if you are real, if they feel safe to be that. So congruence is one of the main features of PCT. The second one is unconditional positive regard. Next to Rogerian core condition is unconditional positive regard. Rogers believed that for people to grow and fulfill their potential, it's important that they are valued as themselves. You have to value the person, even if you don't agree with the person. You know, it's like, even if you don't agree with what they do or what they did, it's like, I still accept you as a person. I don't accept the stuff you do, but I'm not going to judge you on it. And I'm not going to tell you I judge you on it. I'm just going to accept you. And I want to work with you because you're my client. You're the most important person in this room at the moment while I'm talking to you, while I'm dealing with you, while I'm helping you, while I'm helping you to grow, while I'm helping you to move forward in life. This refers to a therapist's deep and genuine caring for the client. The therapist might not approve of some of the client's actions, as I said before, but the therapist does approve of the client. No matter what the client does or did, we still approve of the client. My client is important. I want my client to grow. I want my client to become the best he can be. And I want to be there. Like my counseling room is like it's like a place where we put pressure, like a pressure cooker. My counseling room is a pressure cooker, and we put pressure in there when my client is there, and we try and maintain the pressure in the pressure cooker. And when we lift that and the client leaves, he needs to feel release. He needs to feel that he can face tomorrow. He can face the world outside. He can make decisions for himself. So So person-centered counselor is always careful to maintain a positive attitude to the client, even when he's disgusted in the client's attitudes. So we always maintain a positive attitude towards our client. So when they come in, it's like, yes, I'm excited to see you. Hey John, how are you? How was your week? Hey Mary, it's good to see you today. I don't show that I've got anything against them. I show love, I show respect, and I accept them unconditionally. Thirdly, Roger says we must show empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand what the client is feeling. This refers to the therapist's ability to understand sensitively and accurately, but not sympathetically. So we must be empathetic, but not sympathetic. So be careful that you don't show sympathy. You don't feel sorry for your client. Oh, I feel so sorry for you. I'm carrying your burdens. That's not. You must just show empathy, not sympathy. When you feel that you are starting to become too sympathetic, that's the time when you go to your clinical supervisor. I'll talk in another stage about the purpose of clinical supervision. And for those who are new to counseling, the clinical supervision is not like your boss at home, at work. He's not the oversight at work. The clinical supervisor is another counselor who's done more than 2,000 hours of counseling, who's done a supervisional course, which you go to once every time, depending on what your counseling association requires, and you go to these people and you basically just download your cases, and they also help you when you get stuck with a case. So when you realize that you're not empathetic but sympathetic, or when you realize there's stuff happening like transference, counter-transference, or all sorts of things, that's when we go to our supervisor. So the three aspects is positive regard, unconditional acceptance, and then also unconditional positive regard, congruency, and empathy when we talk to our clients. Then Roger says, I am truly open to the way life is experienced by another person. If I can take his or her world into mine, then I risk seeing life in his or her way and of being changed myself. And we all resist change. Since we all resist change, we tend to view the other person's world only in terms, not in his or hers. Then we analyze and evaluate it. We do not understand their world. But when the therapist does understand how it freely feels to be in another person's world without wanting or trying to analyze or judge it, then the therapist and the client can truly blossom and grow in that climate. So basically what it is that we are actually there to support. We are there to join up with each other. We are there to help the other person to grow. We are there to help the person blossom in the world that they live in. And that's why we try and understand it. We don't take it away from them. We enter with them and we journey with them. And that's the purpose of person-centered therapy, is we're working in the here and now. We're focusing on what's happening now. Also, what influence the past has on the client now. For example, a person that had a bad experience with a teacher when they were in grade 1. The person-centered therapist won't go and say to him, all right, tell me what happened in year 1. The difference will be is like, how do you feel about what's happening in year 1? That sort of stuff. Well, how the PCT person will say is, okay, you told me something bad happened to you when you were in year 1. How do you feel about it now? How do you feel now when you think about what happened there? What impact does it have on you now? So we change the focus from then to now. What is happening now? How are you experiencing it now? So person-centered therapy is a therapy for the here and the now. We're taking things that happened in the past and we look at the impact that has on a person currently. So and that's what Carl Rogers is trying to tell us in this process. That's what Carl Rogers is trying to explain to us, how we need to deal with that. So 10 tips for client-centered counselor. So because you're a client-centered counselor, you are very connected with your client. So there are a few tips. First of all, set clear boundaries. Your client needs to know what your boundaries are. When they're allowed to phone you, don't give out text numbers, don't make your clients Facebook friends, Instagram friends, or anything like that. Set clear boundaries. For example, one phone call a week to confirm your appointment, that sort of thing. If you see me in the outside world, we don't talk about counseling, that sort of stuff. 2, the client knows best. PCT, your client is the expert of their own life. Client is the expert of his own life, his own difficulties. We are not going to fall into the trap of telling them what the problem is. Even if you know what the problem is, they need to discover it. They need to tell you that it's not your place to tell the client what their issue is. Act as a sounding board. Your client needs to speak. Don't you keep on speaking. Listen to your client. Let them talk. Ask them the right questions, but most important, let them talk. While they talk, sometimes they actually come to the conclusion of what the problem is. While they talk, they actually tell you what the issue is. So act as a sounding board. You're just there for the client to speak. You're there to listen. And while you listen, you do the micro skills, paraphrasing, summarizing, all those great stuff we read in Ivy and ZellaQuest, and that will also help your client to come to some sort of solution. Don't be judgmental. No matter what the client does, no matter who the client is, no matter what the client looks like, don't judge. It's easy to judge. That's the world we live in. We're living in a world of judgment. We're living in a world where you need to be good, you need to be the winner, you need to be successful, you need to look good, you need to drive a nice car, you need everything is you need to be. We live in a judgmental world. Some people come to you and they've already judged. Don't tell them what they're doing wrong. They know what they're doing wrong. They need someone to listen. They need someone to embrace. They need someone to journey with them. So don't you also show rejection and disapproval, because that's the last thing they need. They get enough of that in the world out there, in the homes they live in, maybe their spouse or children or parents. So we have a lot of people that suffer from rejection, and we are there to make their life a bit better. Don't make decisions for them. Let them decide what they want to do. Don't make suggestions. And I see a lot of practicals. People will say, have you thought of doing this? Or have you thought of doing that? We don't do that. That's not a counselor's job. The counselor's job would rather be, hey, what would you do to make more friends? And sometimes they'll say, no, I don't know. And give them homework. Say, okay, for next week I want you to go and reflect a bit. Don't use the word homework, because some people have really bad connotations with homework. Say, hey, I want you to go and reflect on 5 things you can do to make new friends. And next week we can talk about that. Don't tell people what to do. Some people come from abusive relationships where they're constantly being told what to do, where decisions are made for them. You help them not to just have a repeat of what's going on in their own homes. Concentrate on what people are saying, and that's something that Rogers also says. Rogers say that the first thing people normally come to you for counseling is not the issue. The issue is normally deeper. So they'll come to you maybe about something like, let's say something silly like, oh, my cat died and I struggle to just cope after that. That might be a serious thing for some people, and then when you start talking to them, it's like the real issue might be that the grandmother gave them the cat. They had a great relationship with the grandmother and she passed away, and they never really dealt with the grandmother's death. So there's always something deeper, and you as a counselor, we need to listen to what's deeper. We need to listen to what they are actually not telling you. Our job is to take them downstairs into the darkness, and when we get in the darkness, we get them to get release of issues they're carrying, and then we take them back into the light. It's important also to pace yourself during a session that you don't end up with your client in the darkness. You need to bring your client out of the darkness before your session ends. But you only have you do that with practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it. Counseling is practice, practice, practice. And also remember that the magic words is, when in doubt, paraphrase. Whenever you get stuck, paraphrase. Be genuine. We talked about it earlier. Be genuine. Be who you are. And if it happens that you're going through a bad day and you can't cancel. It's better to cancel than to give your client a bad experience. Make sure you're in a good space, a good head space, a good physical space when you counsel. Also make sure that you're professional when you counsel. I mean, look at yourself, clothing, look professional, smell nice, wash your hair, just look nice. If you use incense, just be careful that your client is not too sensitive for the smell. So rather have a very soft smell than something that you made your client gets an asthma attack during the session, which will not be a great thing. Accept negative emotions. Sometimes might be very negative, and feeling negative feelings about themselves, their family, or even you. Try and work through their aggression without taking offense, but do not put up with personal abuse. Your client has no right to personally abuse you, your receptionist, or anyone at your practice. And that's where you can stand up and say, sorry, we have to cancel this session now. You're welcome to come back another day. Or if it's really, really very abusive, you'd say, I think we can't continue our counseling journey, and maybe refer them to someone else if they become too personal. How you speak can be more important than what you say. This is all about our voice, the way we speak, body language, pauses. Silence is good. Silence is good, and I find that in practicals especially, that students just want to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And the moment there's silence, they freak out. Silence is good. Sometimes it's good to just, like, let's say your clients say that, I was so upset with my husband this morning. And then you say to your client, all right, I want you for a moment, just hold that upset. Take your hands together, put your hands together, and let's say the upset, what you were upset is in your hand. I want you to ponder about that. Take a few moments and think about it. And then go from there. So how do you feel now? How do you feel about what caused you to be upset? Silence is good. We don't always have to fill every space in the counseling session with words. Sometimes it's good to have a time of reflection, a time of quietness, a time of just sitting with the problem. Lastly, also be man enough, or be woman enough, or be wise enough to realize sometimes that you may not be the best person to help a client. If it's not working with you and the client, if you guys don't gel, nothing's working, get to a place where you say, we've tried some things and it's not working. it might be better if you go and see someone else. Here's a colleague or someone. The other option is also true with referrals, is if you've got a client, let's say a client is stuck with anger issues, you don't focus on anger management, to actually go and say to your client, I want to refer you to my friend James. He's a great anger management counselor. So I would like you to go and see James for 3 sessions. Not free, 3 sessions. And after those sessions, come back to me and we'll continue working on the other issues we've been working on. Be careful not to refer people away the whole time, because it's also your income. It's also your journey. But refer them for 1 or 2 sessions to someone else that can help them. But if you really, really can't help them, and you guys clash, you guys spiritually, emotionally, everything is just, it's not working. It's a total drag every time the client comes in. You may not be the right person for that person. And our journey is to try and get each one to be the best they can be. Our journey, as a counselor, we try and help everyone as best as we can. So I hope this helps you. For a few moments, just ponder about PCT and make sure your barriers are in place. Make sure that you provide the best you can for your client. And in everything that you do, you make sure that you do no harm. Thank you.